Welcome to The Explainer, where today we're breaking down a tale of two companies, and really, two vastly different bets on the future. One is an all-or-nothing gamble on military drones, and the other, a long-term play on the essential minerals that power our entire world. All right, so let's frame this up. On one side, you've got RCAT, that's ticker RCAT, and they are making a super high-stakes bet on military tech. On the other side, you have Energy Fuels, UUU, which is playing the long game, an investment that's really betting on the foundational materials of our entire global economy. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll dive into RCAT's big drone gamble, and importantly, the red flags that critics have raised. Then we'll pivot completely over to Energy Fuels, their mineral strategy, and its own unique set of global risks, before putting it all together to really understand the core dilemma for an investor. Okay, let's jump in with our first case, RCAT. Now, this is a company that has, and I mean this quite literally, bet the entire farm on one single massive opportunity with the U.S. Army.
Look, it really can't be overstated. RCAT's entire investment case, its success or its spectacular failure, is tied to one thing: successfully executing a single military contract to deliver these short-range reconnaissance drones.
And, if you just look at the surface, their finances actually look pretty strong. The company is reporting almost $67 million in cash and receivables. And you'd think, wow, that's a healthy war chest to get the job done, right? But yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Where did all that cash actually come from? Is it from a profitable business? Or is there another story hiding behind that number? And this chart, well, it tells the whole story. You see, this cash isn't coming from operations, not even close. It's almost all from issuing new stock, over $71 million worth. And at the same time, the actual business, the drone-making part, is burning through cash, almost $13 million. In other words, they're funding the company by diluting their shareholders. And as if that financial pressure wasn't enough, things get even dicier. The company is now facing some really serious allegations from short sellers. And these claims, they attack the very foundation of the optimistic story RCAT has been telling investors. And listen, these reports don't pull any punches. They flat out accuse the company of misleading investors on pretty much everything, from the total value of their Army contract to whether they can actually build these drones at scale. This table really lays out the heart of the critics' argument. So take the contract value. RCAT's talking about a potential opportunity of over $80 million, but the critics say, hold on, the actual Army budget documents only show about $25 million allocated for this program. Then there's exclusivity. RCAT claimed to be the sole winner, but the Army itself has confirmed a competitor is also a supplier. And what about production? They claim to be ready for mass production, but critics are pointing to just $3 million in capital spending over 3 years as a major red flag. And you know what's really making the market nervous? The silence. RCAT so far has yet to formally respond to any of these really detailed, data-backed allegations. And when you've got claims this specific out there, that silence, well, it speaks volumes. Okay, so let's do a complete 180. We're going to shift gears from the high-wire act of military drones down to the very ground they're made from. Let's talk about our second company, Energy Fuels. So Energy Fuels has basically reinvented itself to become a major player in what are called critical minerals. And just so we're all on the same page, these are materials that are absolutely essential for a country's economy or national security. We're talking rare earths, uranium, vanadium, the building blocks for literally everything from your EV to advanced defense systems. Their whole strategy is built on these 5 kind of synergistic pillars. And the key to all of this, the thing that ties it all together, is their crown jewel asset, the White Mesa Mill in Utah. You have to understand, this is the only facility of its kind for processing both uranium and rare earths that's currently operating in the U.S. And here's where the contrast with RCAT just becomes wow. Energy Fuels' financial position is like a fortress. They've got over $250 million in working capital and, get this, 0 debt. That gives them an insane amount of flexibility. So you might see they also posted a loss and think, wait a minute. But it's a totally different story. Their loss wasn't an operational failure. It was a strategic choice. They're actually holding onto their uranium inventory, waiting for better prices. That's a world away from RCAI just burning cash to keep the lights on. And on top of all that, they've just hit a massive technological breakthrough. This is huge. They figured out how to separate heavy rare earth elements. We're talking about things like dysprosium and terbium. This is a really complex process that, up until now, has been almost completely dominated by China.
This is a game changer for building a supply chain outside of China.
But there's always a but, right? To feed this amazing mill of theirs, Energy Fuels has to go global to get its raw materials. And that, well, that introduces a whole new category of risk that investors really need to pay attention to.
So, for example, they have this Toliara project in Madagascar. It's described as a generational, world-class resource. I mean, it's massive. The catch? It comes with high political risk and was actually shut down before because of intense local opposition. That's a high-risk, high-reward situation. Then you have their Donald project in Australia. Much more stable, sure, but now they have to navigate some of the toughest, most complex mining and environmental rules on the planet. So this brings us to the final comparison. This is the investor's dilemma. When you put these two companies next to each other, it really boils down to two fundamentally different types of risk. For RCAT, the risk is all internal. It's what we call execution risk. Can the management team actually do what they say they're going to do before the money runs out? Simple as that. But for you, the risk is external. It's geopolitical. Can they manage the incredibly complex, often messy politics of their global assets to keep the raw materials flowing?
And this table just lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? RCAT is a short-term, speculative bet on one single product. UU, on the other hand, is a long-term, strategic investment in a huge geopolitical trend. RCAT's key asset is a contract. UU's is a one-of-a-kind physical mill. The core risk for one is management's credibility. For the other, it's global politics and commodity prices. So at the end of the day, it leaves us with this final thought. As an investor trying to bet on the future, where do you place your trust? Do you trust a single management team's ability to execute on a promise? Or do you trust in the massive, staying power of a global economic trend? That's the choice.